And people in town realize that. They realize that he's helping. It wasn't uncommon for Plumb to hear about one of his workers to be sick, to have a problem at home, something like that, where he would tell his paymaster, you know what, slip an extra $10 in there, double his pay for this week. And put a note in there, hope this helps. My company never done that for me. But that's the kind of compassion he had. And this was later on when Plumb did this. But there was a time when he was walking down Main Street, and he went into one of the grocery stores. And he had been a merchant's clerk his entire life. He went into the grocery store, and he stood in line. Back then, of course, you didn't get what you wanted. You had to stand, and the clerk waited on you. And he was behind a lady who came in, and she gave the money to the clerk and said, I want you to put this on my account. And the guy got the ledger book out, and he said, okay. And then she gives him a list. Now I need this, and I need this, and I need this, and he charges it to her account. And Plumb had been he'd been living a life of luxury for a few years now. He's a little removed from the struggle people were going through. He didn't realize it. So he gets up to the counter and he asks the clerk, is that common? He goes, oh yeah, almost every one of my customers has a running tab. They don't make enough to stay ahead. They give me what they can, pay down their tab, and then I have to give them what they want. I can't let people go hungry. And he felt terrible because these are people that work for him. So at the next board of directors meeting, which wasn't long after that, he told the board of directors, we need to increase their pay. All our miners, I want to give them a 50% pay rate, something astronomical. And of course, the director's like, whoa, wait a second, we can't do that, You're going to topple the apple cart here. Oh, no, we got to pay people. It's not right that they're living like this. We're living comfortably. And they had to explain to them that that is the going rate, wages for miners and glass factory workers, and that's what they get paid. And if you double their pay, you're going to put other coal mines and other towns out of business because everybody's going to quit working there to come work here for you. And the only way they're going to be able to keep workers is to raise their pay and put them out of business. And it's similar to the fast food workers wanting $15 an hour. Nobody is against everybody making good money, but it would, like I said, turn over the apple cart, and everything would go askew if you did that, because it would just make inflation crazy. And they had to explain this to Plumb. And he settled down. He said, all right, I understand it. So they gave him a modest pay raise. But he went home that night and he was mad. And he felt ashamed that his workers are living like that and he's living in luxury. So the next morning, he calls Fawcett into his office, his personal secretary. And he tells Fawcett, here's my checkbook, his personal checkbook. He hands it to Fawcett. He said, I want you to go up and down Main Street to all the general stores, grocery stores, and you ask that clerk how much money you're carrying on credit for all our miners. And you write him a check for that amount, and you tell him to wipe off everybody's debt. And Fawcett says, that's going to be a substantial amount of money. I don't know if you can do that. And Plumb said, I got plenty. He knew he had more than what it would take. And he said, besides, if it takes every penny I have, he said, at the end of the week, I'm getting more money from the bank. I'm getting more money from the railroads. I'm getting more money from the brickyards. I'm going to be rich again next week. So I'm not going to lose any meals. Go do it. So Fawcett did it. He's the only one. I only asked one thing. You make it anonymous. Well, of course, everybody in town knows who did it. And you don't think those clerks went home and told their wives, and So that shows you the character of Colonel Ralph Plumb. Eventually, he got to the point. He got elected our first mayor, unanimously. Served 2 terms. By the time his second term was up, he served 2 terms in Congress. 2 more quick examples, and I'll cut this short. We've been here a while. When he was elected mayor, the first thing he did as mayor one of the, I don't know, his first, second meeting or what, but he told the newly formed city council in 1882 that he wanted to build a high school. Again, he thought education was the key to improving one's lot in life. It made you a better citizen, it made you a better person, it improved your possibilities of having a better life. He believed all his heart and soul in education. And Streator only had grade schools. He wanted a high school. The city council said no. We're just starting out, we haven't even raised any money in taxes yet. We can't afford to build a high school. And Plumb said, but, you know, we need a high school. A town, and at this point, they're pushing 8,000 to 10,000 people. We should have a high school. And we're the biggest, fastest growing community in central Illinois. We should be the leader. We should be the first one to have a high school. Not only was the city council against it, but all the citizens were against it. They were thinking, you know, and their argument with these kids were going to be coal miners, they're going to be factory workers, and they're going to be farmers. They don't need anything above an 8th grade education. So it's a waste of our money. And we thought you were a nice conservative guy, and we're going to waste our money, maybe we elected the wrong guy. And Plumb said he's looking at the big picture. And that's what he's looking at. He's like, you know, for this first generation, all our teachers, all our bankers, all our businessmen, our newspaper people, they all came from different communities here. They were educated elsewhere, but they came here. We can't count on that every generation, having other people come here, all the educated people. We need to grow our own if this town's going to survive. Still, they were having none of it. You know, they were, and he saw their point. 95% of them were going to be coal miners, factory workers, and farmers. And so he couldn't argue that point. But his argument was, what about that 5%? What about that kid that's not wanting to be a common laborer? What about that kid that wants to be a teacher, that wants to be a banker? Don't we owe it to them to provide them an education? Still falling on deaf ears. So what Plumb did is he went and bought a square block of land, 600 block of North Bloomington Street. Paid for it with his own money. After he bought that, he built a beautiful 3-story brick high school with a cupola, this one right here, with his own money. He dug into his pocket and built that high school. After he built the high school, he dug deeper into his pocket. He bought all the chalkboards, all the desks, everything you would need. Gymnasium equipment. I don't know if they had a PE class back then, but gymnasium equipment. He bought everything you would need to start a fully equipped high school. And then him and Marilla had what we would call today a press conference, called everybody together and made the announcement they donated it to the city of Streator. And they did it as a thank you for all that they had gained and achieved since they had been here. I'm going to tell you more about the high school. Anyway, I got to keep moving, so I can't go back to it. But that shows you, he put his money where his mouth was. You know, this building here was built in 1903 with a grant from Andrew Carnegie. And it was his friendship with Plumb that helped that become available. In 1903, this building cost $35,000. Plumb spent between $45,000 and $50,000 on this building 20 years earlier. That was a significant amount of money. About $2.5 million, I Googled it. About $2.5 million in today's money. You know, there's not a lot of people who would do that. Believed in something so much that they would write a check for $2.5 million and donate it to their community. These are examples of why he was loved in his own lifetime. Now, at the dedication of this library in 1903, Plumb realized he was getting old. He was 87 years old. They dedicated the library, like I said, through his association with Andrew Carnegie. They got the money. They did the dedication. At the dedication, Plumb wrote a great speech. It was called The Meaning of the Gift. And it talks about libraries and the significance libraries have on a community. We have copies of it. Well, we have the original copy here. but we have typed up copies of it at the Historical Society, if anybody ever wants to read it. But it shows you how sharp his mind was at 87. But his body was old and frail, and at 87 he showed up here for the dedication of this building in a wheelchair. And that stuns people, because he was always vibrant. And now he's in a wheelchair being pushed by Fawcett Plumb. Fawcett read the dedication speech, the meaning of the gift. And people were very surprised at how frail he was. This was in January 1903. By April of 1903, Plumb was on his deathbed. Everybody in the community knew the end was near. So on April 8th, 1903, church bells started ringing throughout the community. First one, then another, and eventually all the church bells in town were ringing within a few minutes. People realized that Plumb had died.